Mr. Danielson will be filming us today. So thank you for being here, Bruce.
Hi.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If you could do me a favor and just let me know when we're about 4 minutes and 30 seconds with a hand raise or something.
Be happy to.
And if I don't finish, I'll come back next week. I want to talk to you folks about the mutual aid agreement.
And if you could just introduce yourself, please.
Excuse me. I'm sure nobody in the room knows who I am. I am Jay Major, MedStar, paramedic ambulance CEO and president. On the ambulance service in Brandon and in the county here. I've been in this area since my whole life, but in the ambulance business since 1988. And I think I'm the last one standing from those days. But, we have to take this, and what we have to do is we have to not look at personalities when we're talking about ambulance care. And we have to look at what's best for the population, not what's best for MedStar, for REMSA, for the city, for Paramedics Plus. You have to look at what's best for the people. And you ask why I haven't signed the mutual aid agreement yet. And I watched the last, when they were here just getting their 3% raise, I watched that all, and I got a little irritated by that because I was in communication with them, and I didn't know that they were going to throw me under the bus, such as the way they did. First off, REMSA, it's not a volunteer group, it's paid. Jill Franken runs REMSA. Julie Charbonneau is a health director. She's part of the health department. They've got some volunteers on that REMSA board. But ultimately, Mr. Mayor, you're in charge of REMSA. You're in charge of Jill Franken. You're in charge of Julie Charbonneau. You're in charge of REMSA. Okay, so MedStar approached Paramedics Plus over a year ago when they first began service. And I asked them, begged them for a mutual aid agreement. And I was told no. And I'm not going to get into it because I don't have time here in 5 minutes. I was told no. And I was told no because REMSA said they didn't want me to mutual aid with them, but they did get one with Del Rapids back then. So a year later, it comes out, which has been happening all year long, these time response issues are not new, and shame on Jill Franken for telling that gal on KELO she was a liar for driving her own kid into the hospital. You don't call people liars, you try and correct the situation the best you know how. And I've been working with P Plus trying to do that, and I've also asked REMSA to meet with me, which they obviously refused to do. So I'm standing here in front of you today not because I make any money coming into this town. I don't. I've been called into this town over 20 times, and out of that 20 times, the only transport that I have gotten, the only time I made it to the scene, is a cardiac arrest, in which we helped the police department, the sheriff's department, and the fire department, and we saved that gal's life. You haven't heard that from anybody, have you? That was MedStar in Sioux Falls, saved the life. That's the only time we've made it to a call. Otherwise, what we've been used for is to call us from Brandon. We start heading towards Sioux Falls. Once we get here, we could be 3 minutes from the call, from the scene, and a P Plus unit will come available in a hospital. They could be 10 minutes away. They call us off, and they send them. Their time response started at that point. That's how you fluff with numbers, guys. There's number fluffing here going on. There's also with the Sioux Falls Fire Department not being able to respond to priority 3 calls now. That's so they don't know what's going on. It's pretty simple. I look at you counselors as smart people. I don't say, I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing because you're stupid and you should listen to me because you're not in this field. And it offended me when I hear people say that to you. And I think it's absolutely wrong. You're not stupid people. You are people that have a right to go out there and know what's going on in this city with your ambulance service, with your fire department. You should be able to ask questions. You should be able to sit in on meetings, and you should be able to ask your health director what's going on, and she should absolutely be responsible to tell you and answer when you ask her a question. Not, you guys are too dumb to understand. So the reason that we talked about a little bit of subsidy coming into the city, my job is not a backup to Paramedics Plus. My job isn't to come in here, save the response time, let them take the call, and absorb me staffing another truck out in that area while they're taking that patient. That's not my job. My job is for patient care. So I want to be able to continue to do that in the county and in the city of Brandon. But also, guys, let's get rid of the silly attitude that because we had a disagreement a year and a half ago, which we probably still would right now if I could have afforded to fund what I was doing, it's over. I lost. You won. Okay? 30 seconds. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I lost. You won. Let's just put it that way. But now let's all win. Let's take all the things that we've learned through the so many years that we've been doing this together and do something with it. MedStar is not a dirty word. It's a great word. We've got a 4-minute response time in Brandon and a little higher in the county. That's because I spend money, and that's because I have people waiting there to take calls. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I'll finish this next week.
Jay, thank you as well. Appreciate
All right.
it. Make it a great night. Welcome. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor? I assume that this is he's got a story to tell and that he'll show the respect he needs to the council by removing the hat when he's done telling his story. It must be a prop.
You're out of line, Counselor.
Mr. Daly, go ahead, sir.
Dan Daly, Sioux Falls. There's no dress code for council meetings. A counselor who orders someone to remove an article of clothing is outside his authority. You wear $1,000 suits, I wear hats. I remove my hat for the pledge and for the prayer. I'll not remove it for the council. City government has been proven with court cases not to be constitutional or democratic. You ignore findings of facts and conclusions of law. You recently denied a vote. Your form of government doesn't deserve citizen respect. The mayor insists the council silent during public comment. You must refrain from abusive harassment or contemptible reactions. It's an ethics issue worthy of a hearing, unless, of course, you always vote with the mayor. There's been obvious bullying and sexist behavior. Save it for private. You humiliated one citizen who came to report some sand in his front yard. It took courage for him to come before the council, and you caned him. There's council humor about the problem 5. Please define this group. I hope it's not LGBT discrimination. Consider me number 6. I'm sure there's no application form, but if there is, I'd like 6,400 copies. There's a division between citizens and the monarchy. It's either side of this 3-foot wall. Mr. Huther, tear down this wall. Thank you.
Folks, is there anybody else who wanted to engage the council? Welcome.
Sorry. Scott Harrisman, Sioux Falls. Oh, boy. I don't even know how to follow that. Anyway, so I went out to the Empire Mall this weekend, and I observed the snow plows, and I found an issue with one of them. Finding Jesus is on one of them. And I thought that we had solved this problem a few years ago. Not by the disclaimers, but I thought the Public Works Department was going to implement a policy that said we're going to discourage you from promoting any religion, not just Christianity, any religion on government-owned property. Now, the separation clause is there for a reason. It's there to protect people who are religious, Mayor. It's not there to just protect people who are not religious. It is there to protect them. Many great societies immigrated to this country. Why? They came here because they were being persecuted in their countries over their religion and were told they had to worship a certain God. And they didn't like it, so they came here. The irony of this is that it's the same school that decided to paint this on their plow, basically thumbing the nose at taxpayers. So I ask you this: what if a government official, what if you, Mike, or someone from the health department walked in to the Lutheran school and said, "We don't like your curriculum because it has Jesus in it. We need you to stop teaching that." You know what they tell you to do? They tell you to get the heck out of their building. Why? Because separation of church and state. What an amazing thing. But they think it's okay to paint on these plows. And now, This isn't the first time it's happened. That's why I'm bringing this up. I thought this was taken care of. I thought the Public Works Department said, we're going to have a policy from now on. It's okay to display faith and spirituality and paint whatever. You know, Christ the King, that's a school, so that's not really displaying religion. We didn't do that. We didn't learn a thing from this a couple years ago. All the publicity, all the media, the attorneys that were going to get involved with this, we learned nothing. Separation of church and state has been around for a long time. The Supreme Court has upheld it. But for some reason in Sioux Falls, we think we're smarter than that. I'm going to say it again. It is there to protect you. It is there to protect Christians, Jews, Muslims, whatever. It is there so that government doesn't tell you how to worship. And in turn, we ask that you don't tell us how to worship. Obviously, it's probably not going to get painted over. You know, it's just Scott blabbing about whatever. But I wish it would. As for the smoking ban, had many conversations with people with this. I think it should be amended. I'm okay with the parks and the bike trail. And the main reason I'm okay with that is because I don't like the litter of cigarette butts. And people shouldn't be littering our parks with cigarette butts. But with the event center, we have an interesting issue there. And here's what it is. We sell alcohol at the event center. We make money from it. Well, Ovations makes money from it. We're actually building more beer coolers because we don't have enough beer cooler space. Alcohol kills probably as many people as tobacco does. And guess what? Both products are legal as long as you're an adult. So isn't it a little hypocritical for us to say we're not going to allow people to smoke, but we're going to make money and allow people to drink alcohol at the event center? So I say, if you want to ban cigarettes outside the event center, fine, ban alcohol. Well, that's not going to go over. So I would say the parks are great, but at the event center, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. And lastly, I listened to the discussion of the Glory House, and I want to say that I think gifting that piece of junk building to them is a wonderful idea. And there are questions about, you know, the value of it and what we need, you know, should we just give it to them? And I've talked about this at length before. But you have to remember something. This city gives millions of dollars a year towards special interest sports clubs that do nothing for people who are trying to stay out of jail and trying to get their lives put back together.
Scott,
this
thank
would
you.
be a great
Thank you, Scott.
humanitarian effort. So please gift the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Welcome, David.
Greetings. I take it I'm kind of famous for that gesture. Greetings. Well, okay. Now, I'm a bit of a scientist and engineer by trade and by training, and I like to understand how things work. So one way to understand how things work is you make a model, a theoretical and empirical model. So I want to understand our government, not just in Sioux Falls, you know, the whole government, and trying to understand how it works. And if we understand how it works, then maybe we can make it better. Now, if you've followed the current election at all, you can tell there's a lot of unhappy people out there in our country. So something needs to give. We need to figure out what's going on. In a democracy, elections are like the big deal. That's what changes everything. And if you can control the elections, you can control the government. And if you can control the government, you can control laws in the world. Pretty cool. That's how it goes. Now, in our culture, advertising is really important in elections. If you have more money, better funded campaign, you get more ads, more votes. But on the downside, if you're some poor schmuck, no rich friends, no money, no chance. All right, so important thing here is that elections are expensive. You need some rich bankers. And corporations, man, budgets on elections out of this world. And there's a few rich families who spend about $1 billion. That's a lot of money. With expensive elections, if you're running for especially state or national office, you're kind of stuck as a politician because you have to seek the favor of these rich donors. Now, that's a real problem. If you're having to chase campaign funds all the time, you're always looking for, how does this decision affect these people who might contribute to my campaign? And then, as soon as that happens, the people, we don't do so very well. And if you think about that for too long at all, you might think that, oh my gosh, we're going to get systemic corruption just due to campaign finance being so thoroughly skewed in favor of very rich people. Now, I did say it's very difficult to maintain integrity under these conditions, so that means it's still humanly possible, but it's hard, and if we could change campaign finance, we might be able to change quite a bit. Now, if you look around in South Dakota, say, I think we have a regressive tax structure where poor people pay a greater percentage of their income in taxes than rich people. We've got stuff like payday loans that have 300% interest rates, and somebody benefits from this, and it's not the poor people. It's probably people who financed somebody's elections. Oh, and if you think about screwed up elections, it explains lots of other stuff, like loss of rights for the peasants and more power for the rich. Anyway, there's a big list of stuff that is explained quite nicely by this short little model I have of modern American government. And just because things are bad doesn't mean they have to stay that way. As usual, I don't just go and complain about this and complain about that. I make recommendations. Now, as a nation, if we could change the rules of campaign finance, we would change the world. Because then, state and national politicians wouldn't be stuck chasing after campaign funds. They'd be more free to listen to us people. So anyway, hey, I got 30 seconds, and I'd like to bid you all a good evening, and there we go. That's my talk for the night.
Good night, David. Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Good evening. My name is Tom Wilford.
Hi, Tom.
I am from Marv Sanitary Service in Brandon. I am attempting to reflect the views of the majority of garbage haulers in the Garbage Haulers Association in this area. I'd like to direct my comments towards the proposed ordinance change requiring some sort of financial assurance be provided to the city in the case of a hauler's bill going unpaid, or to protect the city in the case of a hauler's bill going unpaid. You may not be surprised that most, if not all, of the haulers are opposed to this. We believe this would never become an issue without the very regrettable situation where a garbage hauler's bill several years ago was allowed to grow to the tune of $250,000. His bill, his monthly bill could not have been anywhere near what this ballooned into, and what he would have ended up owing the city would have been a small fraction of that 250-some thousand if he would have been denied access to the landfill according to the provisions of the existing code, which was enforced at that time and is still. I don't know. I suspect the landfill has had few, if any, other haulers who have not paid up on a past due account. Most of us here have decades of history with the landfill. We've paid our bills regularly and have had no issue with the landfill. we have a hard time accepting the idea that we should have to buy a bond or provide some other assurance that we won't leave our bills unpaid. We feel that we are being punished for the mistakes of others by this proposal. Why should we add yet another expense line when the landfill has no reason, based on our history, to think that we won't pay our bills as we have always paid them in the past? To make us the target of an ordinance concerning unpaid landfill bills just doesn't sit well. The cost of a bond could range from $1,500 for a small hauler to as much as $10,000, according to Diane Best in the Argus Leader. We simply can't agree to paying a few $1,000s when we have done nothing wrong. It's just not justified. The landfill should deal directly with the delinquent hauler, should that situation arise in the future, but continue the good faith relationship that has existed for many, many years with haulers who have proven that they value the opportunity to have a charge account at the landfill. There's another ordinance that is up for consideration as well, and that has to do with inspections of our trucks. And with that comes another cost, and small costs add up to undeniably large costs that have to be dealt with somehow. And as businessmen, part of our job is to maintain costs, and especially to eliminate costs that are needless. The thing with the cost of vehicle inspections is there's an element of payback. There's an element of investment there, because we do gain something from that. That's not just money gone. We have another set of eyes looking at our equipment. And we may find out that or have it confirmed that our maintenance program that we have in place is doing the job and taking care of all the aspects that need to be cared for in a truck and keeping it safe. Or it may bring to our attention something that we've overlooked or some particular item that we missed the last time around. So there is a payback to us for that expense, so it's not all unjustifiable. But when we have to write a check for a bond, that money is gone. That money is absolutely gone. It will do us absolutely no good, because it's simply gone. We get no payback for that at all. Thank you for your consideration of our point of view.
Tom, thank you as well, sir. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Kurt Froni. I represent Novak Sanitary here in Sioux Falls. I echo some of my colleague Tom's remarks in regards to the bond that's being, the bond that's being proposed. Our company has a reputation for over 50 years now of doing business here in the Sioux Falls community, doing business with the Sioux Falls landfill. And in that time, all of our bills have been paid in a timely fashion. There seems to be a situation now where the city has allowed perhaps some haulers to go beyond what they were able to pay, and has allowed them to continue incurring more and more debt prior to making them stop and making responsible decisions about how they ran their business. It seems as if now this responsibility is being placed on us as the haulers and incurring, as has been mentioned, a cost to do that. For a company our size, our landfill bills total into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So as you can imagine, a bond for us is going to total into the tens of thousands of dollars for us to be able to do that. And all the while, we've done nothing more than pay our bills on time each and every month. And We don't see that it should become our responsibility to look out for and, in effect, be the watchdog for those who aren't paying their bills on time. At one of our information sessions, we found out that the city does have software capable now of monitoring haulers' accounts and knowing who's gone past due, who's become delinquent. We would ask that they would, use that as a means to monitor the traffic and who's paying their bills and who isn't. And we feel that, again, it's just unfair to pass that cost on to all of those of us who do pay our bills on time. Rather, why not make the target those that don't pay their bills on time? As a company here in Sioux Falls, we're required to monitor all of our customer accounts. And when our customers go beyond due, go 30 days, 60 days, 90 days past due, we make a decision about what we're going to do about it. We do not require everybody who signs up to get their trash hauled purchase a bond to ensure they're going to pay their bill. We don't do that for the city, and we don't do that for any of our customers that we work with, because we don't feel it's good business. And we don't feel it's good business for the city to be requiring that of us as well. One of the other ordinances that's being proposed tonight is about inspections, and we do applaud this ordinance. We think it's a good ordinance to make sure that the trucks that are rolling down the streets in Sioux Falls are safe. Requiring a DOT level inspection, we feel, is an important thing to ensure the safety of our citizens, and this is one that we certainly do support, so we thank you for that. But again, we would ask that this surety bond be something that's not required of those of us who are continuing to pay our bills on time.
Kurt, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council?
Y'all come back now. Here.
Security, escort this gentleman out, please.
Come on, Soda Pop, let's go.